But if nobody follows the procedure, then there is no procedure. Sometimes the solution wasn't tech.
Gotcha.
Sometimes that solution was like, we need to run some lean projects before we get to tech to figure out what the solution is going to be.
You're trying to get to the root issue, the core issue of, hey, you're raising your hand about something. Do you know why you're raising your hand? Steven Lopez, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity just to sit down and talk with you a bit more. Man, you, first and foremost, your credentials are incredibly impressive to me, just working through kind of your history and all that good stuff. But you are the Director of Business Development for Manufacturing Solutions, working with MMTC and also the Right Place themselves. And so as far as your manufacturing background and history is concerned, incredibly impressive. Like, we service manufacturers as well. And so it's great to have you. Thanks so much for being here. And I'm excited to talk manufacturing today.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I don't want to speak for you. I want to hear from you. And so instead of me going about and listing off your credentials, would you be willing just to kind of share some of your background and what brought you into manufacturing?
I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment.
Okay.
Yeah. After high school, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Go to college for engineering, join the military. So I took a gap year.
Okay.
I got a job in manufacturing.
Okay.
I was washing parts. I was like, entry level.
Like washing parts, like you're utilizing the, what's that chemical called?
I was disassembling parts.
Okay.
And dipping them in paint thinner.
Oh, okay. So like a
pretty
lacquer.
Caustic. Yeah,
Okay.
It smelled bad. Had to wear gloves. My skin was like rough.
Yeah. Yep.
But like 6 months later, I was like, okay, I need to make a decision. I had a group of people telling me I should go to college, and the group of people telling me just keep working. You could work your way up, and still relatively confused on what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So I decided to go to college.
Okay.
But I'm a bit of a rebel. It was like either or, and I don't like that.
Yeah, sure.
I don't even like telling myself what to do, so
Sure.
I don't want anybody else to tell me.
Yeah.
So I continued to work full time during the day,
Okay.
and I went to college full time at night.
Okay. Cool. Yep.
The best thing about that, I got to implement what I learned at the speed of instruction.
Okay. Yep.
I've only worked for small and medium-sized manufacturers, and at the time, this was a really small company.
Sure.
So I got to go back to work the very next day and pick the brain of the owner/president of the company.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst. Like, they saw something in me I didn't see in myself, and the mentoring and coaching began.
Okay. So you're saying the owner then, they saw, obviously you're going to school, you're coming in, you're asking questions, you're maybe even like, hey, what would this process look like? Or if we change this, and then they're like, oh, there's something special about this guy.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you say mentoring, coaching, what did that look like for you personally?
I stopped washing parts.
Okay.
that ended pretty quickly.
One of the most important parts.
Yeah.
I stopped washing parts.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
That was good. That was a good move.
Yeah.
I started assembling,
Okay.
learning more about the units themselves. And at the same time, I was learning about inventory control systems,
Okay.
which is valuable.
Yeah.
We were implementing a business platform at the time.
Okay.
And so there were multiple projects going on. It had multiple hands in it. And they tasked me with setting up a warehouse in the basement of the facility.
Oh, no kidding.
And that's where I feel like I started to really understand how important systems are.
Yeah, because you have to, if you're talking about inventory. And then was that kind of you said warehouse, is that for WIP and shipping, or that was WIP only?
This is a repair and new facility.
Okay.
So it was cores, WIP, and finished goods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So as you're working then in this moment, you're tasked with, okay, set up an inventory management system along with, the organization and the structure itself, not only, on the software side, but also the physical environment, right? And you're still doing classes at the same time at nighttime. Okay. And then, so what was that schedule like for you?
It was brutal.
Yeah. It would have to be. Yeah.
And I'm going to sound like an old man here, but the truth, this is real.
Yeah.
It's not like you're carrying 2 buckets of water uphill both ways.
Yeah.
Barefoot.
15 miles. Yeah.
No, but I took 2 buses and a train to get to work. So I would wake up pretty early, get there,
Yeah.
open up the shop,
Yeah.
and then it was a bus and train to get to school, and a long bus ride home. So I wouldn't get home until like midnight.
Yeah. And then you're up early to do it all again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So intense,
Mm-hmm.
but you had the grind to make it happen.
It just seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's great. Something that is super impressive and that stands out about your resume and who you are and what you bring to the table is your Six Sigma certification. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What inspired you to move forward in that? Why?
I think it all started with organizing and arranging baseball cards as a kid.
Okay. Tell me about it.
I've always I don't know.
Cecil Fielder was your man, wasn't he?
No, Ryan
No?
Sandberg.
Okay.
Chicago kid, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
Enemy territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But organization was always, super important to me.
Yeah.
Like I would get a box of crayons
Uh-huh.
and not want to use them because I just loved how neat they looked.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Sharp points.
yes.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
rip in the no rip in the paper yet.
And don't let anybody touch them or eat them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have brothers and sisters that'll eat crayons?
I have a sister. She wouldn't eat them.
No,
She'd
okay.
probably make me eat them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, siblings do that.
They
don't
do.
They? Yeah.
They do.
How have you found it to be valuable for you? And especially now, you're more of that consultant in the manufacturing world, but how have you found that to be something that's useful for you?
I don't like to be a hypocrite.
Okay.
I think it's a practice what you preach kind of thing for me.
Okay.
I had a lot of mentors in my life that walked me through different aspects of Lean and Six Sigma before getting certified.
Okay.
So I have relatable experiences when I'm working with my clients today.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has to be perfect, right? It's a theory of constraints, so we're using statistical analysis to find the best way to do something, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Sure.
It's all about overcoming the challenge that you're facing.
Sure.
So I think having those relatable experiences helps me articulate to companies that aren't truly familiar without making them feel like they don't know what they're talking about.
As far as your experience with Six Sigma, how are you utilizing it most today?
Lean and Six Sigma.
Okay.
Framework thinking is one thing. I think time management,
Okay.
the whole project management approach, urgent, priority. I have a lot of variation in the work that I do.
Okay.
And sometimes it's difficult to, same as the manufacturers I work with, like where do I begin?
Mm-hmm.
So, thinking about what's going to make the most impact.
Okay.
And how do I organize myself, my day, my week, and the folks or the information that I need to deliver to people
Yeah.
so that they know what they need to do.
Okay.
As far as that, when I'm walking the shop floor, my favorite thing to do is ask the questions like, have you ever considered?
Okay.
Or I could tell that you've done some work in this area. What has been some lessons that you've learned?
Okay.
So that's helpful to spur conversations as opposed to like I had this coach that would walk through and be like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And I just, I didn't like that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. I can't wait to get more into that, and I'll ask questions about that later because I want to play a game too. But let's start here. Can you tell me a little bit about MMTC?
Sure. Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center.
Yeah.
Statewide organization.
Okay.
We report up to NIST, National Institute Standard Technology,
Okay.
and they report up to the Department of Commerce.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do a fair amount of federal and state work initiatives.
Okay. Okay.
So on that, we'll work. Here's how the two missions of Right Place, and I'll get back to what the Right Place is.
Yeah.
The two missions align because we're here to make impacts. Our mission, and every organization like MMTC's in the country, including Puerto Rico, the mission is to increase the manufacturing might in America.
Okay.
And I believe it's called Manufacturing Extension Partnership, was
Okay.
created in the early 90s. So that aligns with economic development because that's their mission too. Not just manufacturing, but other businesses.
Okay.
So the Right Place covers economic development for 7 of the 13 counties that make West Michigan.
Okay.
I cover all 13.
Yeah. Okay.
I work for the Right Place. Randy Thalen is my CEO.
Okay.
I represent Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center here in West Michigan.
Okay. So that makes sense based off the map that I saw online, as far as how MMTC is kind of divided between the states. But so what you're saying is, hey, I am an employee of the Right Place specifically, but I am a representative of MMTC for those 13 colonies on the west side. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the right place is a fiduciary.
Okay.
The right place holds the grant. So what the benefit here is that I get to collaborate with other economic development organizations, like Lakeshore Advantage, Berry County Chamber Economic Development Alliance, Greater Muskegon Economic Development.
Yeah.
And we have county partners like throughout the entire region that we meet with, collaborate with
Sure.
on a weekly basis. We are in the business of making an impact.
Okay.
The Right Place is 3 pillars: people, place, prosperity.
Okay.
It's we want to attract and retain people. I'm not from here. I was attracted to the economy here,
Yeah.
and West Michigan definitely kept me.
Yeah.
But there are other folks, other highly skilled people that graduate from all of the wonderful schools here
Yeah.
that leave because they're not aware of what they could do here.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's part of the retention. Place is beautifying areas, maybe rural areas where their downtowns are kind of run down, or if you go to Grand Rapids, you see all the traffic, all the new construction, the entertainment, etc.
Yeah.
We want to make the region a little bit more attractive for tourism
Okay.
and for people to enjoy their lives, increase the quality of life.
Yeah.
The prosperity side is what my team does and the economic development team does.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to make sure our manufacturers are competitive. They grow in West Michigan and they stay in West Michigan.
Okay.
Here's where I sound a little political, and I don't mean to.
No. Bring the politics in.
Yeah.
We're okay.
We statistically, we know for a fact, the better businesses do, the better our communities do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chances are businesses are hiring locally,
Yeah.
and that money's going right back into that local economy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love that. Let's like dive into that manufacturing realm for a second. And I don't want to just do like a cold thing. I like to have fun a little bit. So would you entertain me in playing a game called Fact or Fiction? Are you cool with that?
I might not like it, but I'll do it.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. I go through, and I don't know if you're like this or not, but I go to Reddit more for entertainment than anything, because Reddit to me is full of, and I'm going to say this at risk of being annihilated, but full of the best and worst internet trolls.
Absolutely.
So I went through and I just searched manufacturing and just tried to get the best and worst opinions of manufacturing in general.
Oh, great.
And so I want to read a couple of, I think I have 4 statements for you. And I want to get your gut reaction, fact or fiction, and then just give me a brief reason. Is that fair?
No.
No? Okay. You don't want to do it? You don't want to do it?
No, let's do it. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool. Okay, first one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Manufacturing isn't even a good industry to be in anymore. Margins are too low and people just get abused.
Fiction.
Fiction. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I've worked in some tough environments.
Okay.
So I think it's true in some cases,
Okay.
but
That's
it's not
fair.
a sweeping statement. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for manufacturing.
Yeah.
I didn't have a college degree at the time I was hired.
Yeah.
I got on-the-job training, mentoring, and coaching. I got masterclass advice that opened doors I didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I'm a living example of how manufacturing can create success
Yeah.
for individuals and for organizations, right?
And the best thing about my job today is I get to give that opportunity to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool, man. I like that. All right. Okay. Number 2, are you ready for 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Most manufacturing is moving overseas to China or Mexico. Why would anyone get into this industry?
Fiction. See, this is where I my logic brain, I'm too analytical to like want to live or die on like one side.
But I love it though. That's why I like, even meeting you for the first, 20 minutes, I was like, he's smart. Like I want to get his reaction out of this stuff.
Thanks.
Gotcha journalism.
Yeah. All right, hot takes. I don't have stats on it. I don't have stats to support that. But
Sure.
I do know that companies have farmed out employment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's most. I know here in West Michigan, we are actively strengthening our supply chain.
Yeah.
You know, we have organizations like metal fab shops that support automotive, aerospace, and furniture.
Yeah.
I mean, those are our top three.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what's really interesting. And I did some pencil whip research. And what I mean by that is like some Google and some ChatGPT and some Microsoft Copilot. And there's a general number of anywhere from 15 to 27,000 new manufacturers in the United States in 2025. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
15 to 20,000. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there are, 100 jobs at every single one, but there's new manufacturing. They're producing something, right? Yeah. And so it is funny because we do see some of those larger manufacturers that are like, hey, we have outsourced to China and Mexico, and man, I worked manufacturing, and we opened up a sister company out in Mexico, and it was, we shifted some of our labor there. So I do see that. But the interesting piece is that manufacturing is still growing from the quick research that I did. Again, it's pencil whipping research. But just from, hey, are we growing in manufacturing? Those are the numbers that came out, anywhere from 15,000 to 27,000.
That's an interesting stat. In West Michigan, we have roughly 3,000 manufacturers.
Okay.
And I don't think, this is an opinion, I don't think the majority of people understand what qualifies a manufacturer as a manufacturer.
Okay.
And I didn't until I got this job. So Dun & Bradstreet is a I don't know the whole thing about them, but they collect information from manufacturers. And we create NAICS codes for manufacturers.
Okay.
NAICS code identifies the type of manufacturing that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been in any manufacturing facility around here, you know that manufacturers are doing different things. So they have different markets, different business strategies for them. That means they have multiple NAICS codes. And so you could go into like food processing, that's manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And people don't often think that because it's food.
Yeah.
Or we have some folks that do distribution. Okay. But they're kitting, they're assembling, and they do so much of it that they are qualified as a manufacturer.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that is a really great point, that there are probably things that are happening on the manufacturing side that you wouldn't even consider manufacturing. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Are you ready for number 3?
Let's go.
Bringing manufacturing to the U.S. doesn't really matter. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Tell me why.
Yeah, it depends on the manufacturing.
Okay.
I think in some manufacturing industries, it pays to keep it overseas. Okay. Right? Like we don't have the minerals or materials to supply or to produce, which causes it to cost a lot more to produce. Okay. Yep. This is America, man. We can manufacture just about anything. Sure. But our relationships are important. I don't want to get into like geopolitics, or I don't know enough about like globalization to really stand on the platform here.
No, let's get into geopolitics. I'm kidding.
When it comes to economic development, here we see statistically that the more people are employed, the less crime we have, and the more that the world is working, the more people have to lose. Yeah. So there's like a decrease in everything and an increase in just quality of life. Yeah. I think it's important to keep the world busy in that way. Yeah. Give purpose.
You touched on something I want to dig a little, and you had said something, hey, the more jobs that we create, the less crime that there is. That felt personal. Is that a personal conviction of yours, or is that just something like, hey, no, that comes from the research and the job, the nature of the job itself?
I think it's both.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Off the cuff, I grew up in a rough neighborhood in Chicago. Okay. I definitely saw the haves and have-nots of it. Okay. Like the houses were beautiful. There were people that lived in the neighborhood that did very well for themselves. Okay. For anyone listening, I grew up in Wicker Park. So you had these old, beautiful Victorian homes. Okay. And then affordable housing. It's interesting to wake up and go to school and see adults standing on the corner, drinking and doing whatever they're doing. Yeah. On one side of the street. And on the other side of the street, people are jumping into their Audis going to work. Man. Yeah. And sometimes people don't realize the opportunities that they do have. Because on one side of the street, it's not being talked about.
Gotcha.
In my work today, if I run a project, like let's say it's a process improvement project, or I help a company with business strategy, they get certified to work in med device, and they're also doing aerospace. We create jobs. This is a new business market. We create jobs and opportunities for people to change their lives.
Sure.
And if we're adopting technology, sometimes the jobs that people are doing goes away. And most times, new jobs are created. Somebody needs to manage this automation system.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to learn how to repair this robot.
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah. This is partially why you're so good at it. It's because it is personal, right? To a certain extent, that you're like, hey, I'm going to make a difference here. I'm going to make an impact for the people that are on that side of the street that it's not being talked about for. Is that fair to say?
It's a core value.
Okay.
It's a value. I'll give you a story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One of my first projects when I got this job, like almost 5 years ago, I was talking to this manufacturer, and he's like, I don't know where to begin. Like, we're just hemorrhaging cash. He did this whole like sales and marketing initiative. He spent a lot of money, generated a lot of business, and hemorrhaged at the back end on the ops level. There was no system in place. People did what they did, based on how they perceived the job.
Are you saying no operational system in place? Or?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There were some standard operating procedures, but if nobody follows a procedure, then there is no procedure.
Yep. Absolutely.
So there was no system of managing that. So we ran what we call a supervisor leader training.
Okay.
We took 12 people. They weren't all supervisors. Took 12 people through the same training, improved their systems, what they do and how they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I went back not long ago. I revisited them, and the driveway was freshly paved. There were newer cars in the parking lot. There was a lot, like I couldn't find parking.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that was a frontline leader is now managing production.
Oh, man.
And he remembered me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, the conversation I had with the president changed so many lives and gave so many opportunities. I feel like I'm bragging here, but the real brag is that people's lives were changed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. The impact, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Okay. All right, man. Well, I could probably park there forever, but let's keep it moving. I want to make sure that we're hitting all the things that we want to do. One more. Okay. Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
Most people that are in manufacturing are just there because they're uneducated. Oh, I hate even reading that one. But fact or fiction?
That might be a fact.
Oh, really?
It might be. It might be because chances are you have more people on the shop floor than you do in the office.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
But I'm going to pontificate again. Workforce development. I was with a company. I'm a walking, talking NDA, so I can't bring up names.
Okay.
I was with a company last week. Yeah, last week. And I was asking him about his continuous improvement team because of the way the conversation was going. And he was like, yeah, kind of not formally, but we provide training in-house. They are adopting technology like a lot, very fast.
Yeah.
And he told me about an engineer that isn't an engineer. He took this entry-level person.
Yeah.
And they were adopting automation lines. And they trained him to be an automation engineer. They sent him to the local community college, which we partner with.
Yeah.
He got training, problem solving, all the things.
Yep.
And today he's operating as an engineer with certifications, not a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what's really funny about that, Steven, is in why I hated that one, but I wanted to bring it up on purpose, is because my father's legacy and my legacy is based off of manufacturing. So my dad is an engineer that started as a journeyman, that started as a boy sweeping a floor. And so what I would say is this, manufacturing is education. And it provides the opportunity for it. And so, you think about the Industrial Revolution and how it changed the economy for the United States and brought us out of farming and into something a little bit different and gave more opportunity. I still think it does that. And what I want to say, so I'll step up on the soapbox with you, is that if you're looking at manufacturing and you're not seeing the opportunity, it's because you're not looking close enough or you're not looking long distance enough. And so so, man, when I read that one, it spurred something in me. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. Knowing your background, knowing your history. For me, I would say, okay, I'll share that could be fact. But I'm going to lean heavily on the fiction, because maybe they start uneducated, but if they're there for a while, they're very, very educated. And I have a lot of friends from when I worked the floor. I did something similar to you, where I worked 60 hours a week at a manufacturing facility working on the floor, and I still have lifelong friends from that job while I was going to college at night. So, and they're some of the smartest guys I know. Some of the smartest guys I know.
I love that you say that. It reminded me of, I was working for this company, Howe Corporation.
Okay.
I had hiring, firing responsibilities. I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
So I was like reading all kinds of things, and I learned how to interview people from cultural, behavioral, technical skills.
Yeah, sure.
And if I could give advice to anybody that's looking for a job in manufacturing that doesn't have a degree or a lot of experience, I would say approach that interview with you. I think you said thinking long enough. I think for like entry level positions, people are looking like, oh, I could do that job from a technical level. But we're not looking at like, is this a culture that promotes from within? What can I learn here? In those interviews, people have an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like and I get it. Sometimes people just need a job. I get that for sure. But I think if interviews become more of a conversation and less of a Q&A, then you have an opportunity to identify if this is a growth position.
Yeah.
And growth. A lot of companies today are talking about putting together like growth matrices and things like that. Thinking about the skills or the gaps, that they have and the skills that they need and how they can upskill their employees to fill those gaps.
Yeah. Man, that's a golden nugget, and we could park there for a long time, but I can't. I have to keep us moving. I want to say something very specific to that. The growth matrix thing is encouraging to me, because I think when I worked manufacturing, there wasn't a lot of that question. It was more like, oh, okay, you've been here 5 years and this opportunity opened up. Yeah, sure, you can apply for this. But finding an organization, if you are entry level manufacturing, and saying, okay, is there a culture fit here? And then, can I grow and then leverage my skills for a path of like career or whatever, can be a really healthy thing. So manufacturers that are taking that seriously, one of the number one problems that we're seeing in manufacturing today is people. Like, they're having turnover. They can't employ enough. They don't have, butts and seats to make the manufacturing happen. And so I would encourage those manufacturers to heed what you said, which is, hey, growth matrices can be really, really valuable in the conversation of, hey, if you work here, these are the paths forward. So I agree with you. I couldn't move past it too fast. So manufacturing, tell me all about it, man. Why do you love it? What's your heart for it? Wherever you want to start, I guess.
I love taking the thing and making the thing out of that thing.
Okay. I love how you said that, actually.
Yeah. I've worked in different industries. What I really love about Lean Six Sigma, I think my brain is just wired for it.
Yeah.
Systematic approach to overcome a challenge is that no matter what industry you're in, the problem, the outcome, whatever you're working on, might seem different to somebody in a different industry. But if you work through that problem set and get to the root cause, you get to the basics of the theory of constraints.
Yeah.
So today I get to, it's how it's made every day. Every time I'm with a manufacturer, I'm a bit of a therapist. I'm just listening. I'm a fly on the wall, and we're walking, talking. But I get to help manufacturers overcome their challenges.
Yeah.
What manufacturing means to me is it's a lot of different things. It's not just about the product or the support. The supporting roles, like I mentioned earlier about metal fab shops, supporting multiple industries. It's also like one roof. You have so many jobs. We have so many manufacturers here. chances are when you're driving on the street, you look to your left and right, they're coming out of manufacturing facilities.
Sure.
I mean, this is everyone's communities, everyone's life.
Your expertise is really kind of that consulting front, not just because, somebody slapped a consulting hat on you and said, hey, you're a consultant now, but because you have the experience and because you've been able to stand in the shoes of, the production manager, the operations guy, the development guy who's like, hey, I have to create this new system. Can you tell me a little bit about your process working with the Right Place and MMTC, and when you engage with a manufacturer that raises their hand and they're like, hey, I could use a little help here. Like, what does that process look like for you?
Well, it changes often.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll admit, when I first started, I struggled.
Okay.
Coming out of ops into a business development role, continuous improvement mindset, I recognized quickly that I lacked some soft skills.
Okay.
Like, I mean, anybody that ran ops before knows that like your shop people hate you because you're statistical about your approach.
Yeah.
Salespeople hate you because they just placed an order that they wanted yesterday.
Yeah.
And they can't have it.
Yeah.
So you're always fighting.
Yeah.
There's always some fire to put out. But being conversational, that was a challenge. I could get on the shop floor and nerd out, and I get goosebumps sometimes, and that helps me with those conversations. But I struggled in the conference room.
Okay.
I struggled with group conversations and being patient, and so I worked through that. I learned about myself, and the continuous improvement mindset definitely helps. Today, my process depends on the situation.
Okay.
I'm far more flexible today.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a certain way, and I don't have to put in hours and hours of prep work before I get on site.
Okay.
I'll say yesterday's site visit was a bit of, hey, we want these trainings. Why do you want these trainings? I don't know. I passed your catalog throughout the shop and people picked trainings. And we talked earlier about the inventory control system while adopting a platform.
Sure.
My mind always goes back to this, aligning processes with technology to maximize the potential of an environment.
Okay.
It's the same thing with trainings. Do these trainings really make an impact on your organization? Did you forget what the mission is? Let's talk about this. What is the desired outcome you would like to have from these trainings?
Sure.
So that's a bit of a coaching aspect.
So you're basically, what it sounds like you're doing is you're trying to get to the root issue, the core issue of, hey, you're raising your hand about something. Do you know why you're raising your hand? Is that true?
At times, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What does it look like for, say, an operations guy? They're like, hey, I know something has to change here. I have racked my brain. I am even making some good impact in the organization that I'm in, but I could use some help. I could use a sounding board, or I could use somebody to, bounce some thoughts and ideas off of. What would that process look like in that scenario?
Usually an added element of that is we're about to bring in business that I don't think we're ready for.
Okay. Yeah.
Problem, solution, impact. Same concept.
Usually
ops guys or gals, they'll bring their homework to the table.
Okay.
And say, here are all the areas that we've looked at. We're not sure where to begin. We don't have the capital to do it all at once. So there we'll talk about roadmaps. We'll walk the shop, or I'll take one of my subject matter experts on site with me.
Yeah.
And then it's just an hour-long brainstorm.
Okay. That's actually where I geek out in the manufacturing side of things, because I love solving problems. And so I guess, do you share that you say you geek out? Sometimes you're on the floor and you get goosebumps. Is it because you're solving the problem, or just speak into that. Is it because you're solving the problem, or is it because of something different? What is it that makes you geek out about that side of things?
I think because of the exposure I've had in the past 5 years, it's more about overcoming the challenge.
Cool.
Than solving the problem. When I was a plant manager, absolutely, it was about solving problems.
Okay.
But I'll admit, as a plant manager, I was more of a firefighter. We had the same problems every week. Every Friday, this one machine would go down. Every Friday.
I love that you're gritting your teeth as you say that, because I know that feeling. Yeah, totally.
We're like, here we go again.
Yeah, gotta change that stupid photo eye.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay.
But overcoming challenges to me means that that problem goes away.
Yeah. Okay. You had mentioned before, and we haven't talked about this yet, but assessments that you run as part of your process, and how those assessments are really leaning into that Industry 4.0 mindset. Could you speak a little bit into those assessments? What are they, and then how does that attribute some forward motion? I think is what I'm looking for.
The Industry 4.0 assessment is a state of Michigan initiative.
Okay.
The MEDC and a couple of other organizations put in some money to develop this assessment, working alongside Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. Then it was our charge to go out and assess companies.
Okay.
For these assessments, we're looking at strategy, infrastructure, information systems, and operations.
Okay.
Like we definitely want to see the gaps.
Yeah. That seems like a pretty holistic assessment. Is that a fair statement, or am I missing something?
Depending on the manufacturing environment.
Okay.
Just elements of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Time-wise, the assessment will take about 2 hours.
Okay.
For me. But then I have a fair amount of research.
Yeah.
Creating the gap analysis and then writing my report.
Okay.
And sometimes the solution wasn't tech.
Gotcha.
Sometimes that solution was like we need to run some lean projects before we get to tech to figure out what
Great.
the solution is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me what you said. Hey, I got to write my report. Can you let me in a little? Can I peek behind the curtain? What does that report entail? What does that mean?
Yeah. Summary of the company, where they were, where they are, and where they want to be.
Okay.
Yeah. My observations.
Okay.
Recommendations, and then next steps.
Okay. Awesome. When you give that report, something that you said before, and I want to quote you, I'm not afraid to tell somebody their baby's ugly. Yeah. Now, for context, that was not really specifically talking about somebody's baby, right?
I mean,
you'll do that too. Okay, great. Good to know. The context was, hey, I'm not afraid to go in. And I think what your heart behind that was, I want to have a constructive conversation. And part of a constructive conversation is not beating around the bush when there are gaps or when there's an issue at hand, right? And so, what I took it as is, I'm not afraid to call somebody's baby ugly. I'm not afraid to go in and say, hey, this seems like a problem. What do you think about that? Is that a fair assessment?
It is, but it depends on who I'm working with.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely want to mirror the person I'm working with.
Okay, gotcha.
I want to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in manufacturing. I've been in manufacturing.
Yeah.
Sometimes a process that we see today is an outcome of somebody's blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like jokingly, I'll say, I'll tell you your baby's ugly, but I'll find a creative way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's lean leadership approach.
Sure.
Asking a series of questions.
Yeah.
Or like, you said you've done this before and it didn't work. Talk me through what were some of the lessons learned.
Yeah.
Like don't just stop there.
Yeah.
Like, let's build this together. I'm here. Like I'm at no cost to my clients, right?
Yeah.
So, but I have had a couple clients that are friends. And I'm like, man, come on. Come on.
Your baby's ugly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually, in doing my research about you and MMTC and the right place and all that stuff, I actually came across some videos, and they seemed a bit dated, but still talking about Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, opening in 1992. Something that I saw was, they said, there was an assessment run, and when we initially got the review or the report, there were things in there that we didn't really like. But there were things in there that really made a difference for us, and we were like, oh yeah, that's something we can agree on, and we want to move forward in. But then as the interview continued, I think it was like a 6-minute video on YouTube. But as the interview continued, this person began to open up to, hey, and then we realized that some of the stuff we didn't like and we didn't want to hear, we really needed to hear that. How often does that happen to you? Is that a lot? Is that like 90% of the clients that you deal with, or the people that you're dealing with, or are you, is it a smaller percentage?
It's a small percentage.
Is it? Okay.
I would say. We work with small to medium sized manufacturers. So
Yeah.
I have a client that it's just him.
Okay.
And several machines.
Yeah.
And I have clients that have like 500 full-time employees. So there's a different approach to being open for advice and looking for support when you are growing in scale.
Okay.
Right? And like that one person shop is like, Steven, dude, like what? Like tell me
What
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like what do I need to do?
Yep.
And I think, for some folks, the longer they're in the game, the less humble.
Okay.
Or less that they like, this is how we've always done it, so we know everything. Have you ever worked in this industry before? What do you know about this industry? I'm like, okay, but let's just talk about what's keeping you up at night.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that we do is when we're done with the project, about 10 to 12 months,
Yeah.
NIST will send a survey to the client.
Okay.
And we want to see what those impacts are on the project that we ran. They have an opportunity to score us,
Okay.
like a net promoter score.
Okay.
And that doesn't cause me to do my job to the best of my ability.
Sure.
Half the time I forget about that.
Okay.
But they also have an opportunity to write about the experience.
Okay.
And we get a lot of compliments.
That's
We get
great.
a lot of compliments, a lot of positive feedback.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's things like, I wish that Steven can spend more time. I only hear from him when it's like going pro or this or that.
Their only complaint is that Steven's not around more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good complaint to have.
Yeah, I mean that tells me like, okay, maybe with this client there's some other things that we need to work on.
Yeah. Sure.
And I appreciate that. But I've had assessments where the report wasn't received positively.
Okay.
This caused me to change the way I write. I'm a technical writer, not a creative writer.
Sure.
But I pivoted very quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
But I saw this person at an event, at a Right Place event, and we
Okay.
had a sidebar conversation.
Gotcha.
And he did something similar to the example that you said. And he was like, I'm really sorry about that. Like, I was completely wrong. Can you come back on site? Like, let's blah, blah, blah. So,
Gotcha. I don't want to miss the opportunity here because I don't know that we've been incredibly clear with how the Right Place actually partners with MMTC and what's actually available. So I think we have talked on the consultative side, your credentials, your qualifications to be able to come in and give and support local manufacturers and process and all of that stuff. But there is kind of a financial segment of it as well. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
yeah, we're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
We receive a grant to operate, and we have to match that grant in dollars, in revenue.
Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, the dollar amount that we receive
Yep.
is a dollar amount that we have to produce
Yep.
in trainings, consultings.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
So we don't get paid for it. We earn salaries,
Mm-hmm.
but we're a small team. There's only 5 of us here
Okay.
in West Michigan,
Okay.
and only 2 of us are boots on the ground.
Gotcha.
And we're spread pretty thin. Our job is to develop the business and call on our deck of subject matter experts to conduct those trainings or consulting, or our community college partners, Ferris State University, depending on where the manufacturer is located.
Okay.
They get paid.
Okay. Gotcha. Say that you have a manufacturer that needs help, needs the consulting, that kind of stuff. Was I misunderstanding that there is an opportunity for them to receive a grant as well, or is that not something that you guys are a part of?
For workforce development,
Okay.
like both technical, soft skills,
Yeah.
there are several grants available.
Okay.
We partner with Michigan Works,
Okay.
and they have several offices. They hold multiple resources to
Gotcha.
help manufacturers and businesses in general. GRCC in this area, they sometimes hold grants or funding opportunities. So there's always something around to help offset the cost of workforce development.
Gotcha.
In terms of technology adoption, we had a technology adoption grant that a lot of manufacturers took advantage of.
Okay.
And they were able to help offset the cost of that technology adoption.
Gotcha. I like what you did there as far as just talking about the technology side. How, just as far as Industry 4.0 and technology specifically, I mean, that's kind of the realm that we play in. How have you seen technology shift the manufacturing environment from the time that you started in manufacturing, 15, 20 years ago at this point, to now?
Wow, so much has changed.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the work that you do, digital transformation, I mean, it's amazing. I don't want to bust my butt today and find out tomorrow how bad I did.
Sure.
I want to know right now.
Yeah.
And now we have the power to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you build an IoT tower, I mean, you're sharing and distributing information almost in real time. Depending on your definition of real time, I talk to some folks and they're like, it's like 3 milliseconds. That's not real time.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, emerging technologies like robotics is changing so fast. Everybody's talking about AI and the possibilities there.
Yeah. Shop floor
It's
visibility,
exciting.
all that stuff. Yeah. Man, Steven, it has been such a joy to have you on. Say that there's two things I want to do. Number one is I try to end every podcast with if you could give somebody a gold nugget, one piece of advice, speak to the people that may need consulting, but they're hesitant in it. What would that piece of advice be?
I recently read a book called Think Again by Adam Grant.
Okay.
Are you familiar?
No.
I read it and I'm listening to it in the car at the same time. We talks about getting out of your own way, having a preconceived notion. We have a tendency of operating under a confirmation bias. It's just the way things are, especially the better you get at your job. Are you familiar with the good to great concept?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The better we get at our job, the more we're like, no, I know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And that gets in our way of growing.
Sure.
The advice would be get out of your own way. Collaborate. Not just in your local community, but outside.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many networking opportunities.
Sure.
At the right place, we have a manufacturing council.
Okay.
Join.
Yeah.
Join, talk to folks. Change the conversation from benchmarking to best practices.
Sure.
And be curious.
Yeah.
Have you ever came across this issue and what did you do to overcome it? Our plant manager network is growing like crazy right now.
Okay.
Same concept. We even have a supervisor leader user group.
Okay.
We used to run an AM and PM twice a year.
Sure.
And now we're running multiple sessions throughout the year.
Yeah. Okay.
The power of networking is amazing. And I'm saying this as a not from here person.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, we were talking about when I came here in 2020.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm so smart as an analyst.
Yeah.
I analyzed everything except for, a global pandemic.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
No network. It's COVID. No opportunities to meet people.
Sure.
In Chicago, I had friend groups all over the city.
Sure.
All over the city. But now my perspective is there's a Venn diagram of networks with the right place right in the middle. Like, collaborate.
Yeah.
You're going to find what you're looking for.
Steven, thank you so much for being here. What a joy. What an honor for you just to sit down and talk with us. And I'm sure I'll probably invite you back here pretty soon.
Sounds good. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.